So much for listening to this episode of Earrings Off. We want to invite you to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. You can find us on Facebook at Earrings Off Podcast and on Instagram at The Earrings Off Podcast.
Welcome to Earrings Off. I'm Lou.
And I'm Teresa. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Earrings Off podcast. Today, we're thrilled to have a heartwarming conversation with Kim Mosiman. Not only is she a devoted wife and mother, but also an adoring grandmother, an author, and a coach. Kim Mosiman shines in her role as a guide for women navigating the exciting journey of their second act. As a certified nutritionist from Precision Nutrition and the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, as well as an experienced wellness coach, she brings a wealth of knowledge to the table. Her ownership experience of a gym adds to her dynamic approach, blending spiritual guidance with physical health for comprehensive wellness. In her book, Reflections of Joy, Kim invites readers into a world where faith meets practicality, offering strategies that celebrate strength and beauty while fostering holistic growth in every facet of life. Continue listening as we dive into an uplifting dialogue with Kim that promises to leave you motivated and ready to embrace your own path with renewed vigor. Enjoy.
Okay, we have with us today Kim Mosiman. Kim, welcome to Earrings Off.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I tell you, we are excited to have you. As a wife, mother, and business owner, you wear a lot of hats. What would you say to the woman who says she doesn't have time to cook healthy food, exercise, or work on their health? What would you say to them?
Well, I would tell her I know how she feels, but I believe that where there's a will, there's a way. And, I worked really hard to find those little bits of time. But I think over the course of my health journey, I did my very best to become efficient. And although I know people say multitasking isn't a thing, and I would have to agree, I tried to be efficient. So I might cook 2 times the amount of food and throw half of it in the freezer for next month. Or my favorite thing is to cook once and change it. So for example, last night we had a pork roast and complete with my husband's favorite mashed potatoes and, just your traditional roast, carrots, potatoes. But then tonight for dinner, I took that roast and shredded it and added some fajita seasoning and cooked up some peppers and onions. We had the same protein, but we had it in a tortilla with some cheese and sour cream, which made him happy because he knows that it's leftovers, but it doesn't taste the same. So I did it when my kids were growing up for the same reasons. They didn't want to eat the same old thing day after day. But I would say you can find time. You just really have to be creative.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to that, you be creative and with the cooking time as well as shopping, right? So when you're thinking about going to the grocery store, then you take the time to make that grocery list with those kind of thoughts in mind, right?
Exactly. And along with shopping, some of the same things, if you find a great deal, maybe you're not going to, you go to these super stores, whether it's Costco or Sam's Club or whatever it is, and they might have 20 pounds of hamburger on sale, right? You're not going to cook that up, but certainly, cook for tonight, cook for tomorrow night, put the rest in the freezer in appropriate portion sizes so you can save money as while you're saving time. Yep.
Okay.
So based on your experience as a personal trainer, what advice would you give the woman who is afraid to start an exercise program?
I think with many things in life, we wait until we think we're ready, or, I don't want to go to college until I've done the work, or I don't want to go to church until I know how to pray. I don't want to go to the gym until I'm fit. Well, that doesn't, it doesn't make sense for any of those things, right? Baby steps, and there's always a way. And so in my book, I have a whole chapter devoted specifically to that person who maybe has been so deconditioned for whatever reason, or has never exercised before, that she can start baby steps. Sometimes it means just getting up out of the chair and walking to the mailbox 3 or 4 times a day. Sometimes, we hear all these things about lifting weights. Well, body weight exercise is incredible, but you can be sitting in a chair, unable to physically go to the gym and squat, but you can stand up and sit down in good form several times and really make great gains to get you ready to be able to go to the gym.
I heard a podcast earlier today, and one piece of advice was just go ahead in the morning when you get up, get dressed for the gym. That's the first step, and then you're
Absolutely.
likely to go ahead, either go to the gym or working out at home, whatever your preference, or however you do it. But if you don't do that, if you don't get up and get dressed, then you are likely not going to do it.
Yep. And, the two of you being on this podcast together, how important it is to have a friend or to have backup.
Yeah.
And the first time that I exercised as a child, and I swam competitively through high school. But then, those years when I was having babies and starting my career, I didn't exercise. And I just kind of floated, with my good genetics, if you will, and felt good for a while. But then, 30 hit and your body just doesn't respond the same.
Yeah.
Well, once I decided I was ready, and I had some bad habits that I broke when, I was a smoker when I was young, as foolish as it was, I did. And so I quit smoking. And on my 6-month anniversary, I signed up for an exercise class with a girlfriend, because I knew that just like you said, if you don't get up and get dressed, you might not go. Well, I knew for me that there's a good chance if I signed up by myself, I was just going to hit the snooze button, but I was never going to ditch on her.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Kim, I love your point about, you just start so many times, just like we said, like going to college or whatever it may be, we want the conditions to be perfect, but just take one step, just do something. And that's what we say on this podcast is that, just take some baby steps, do what you can. Like you said, walking to the mailbox, getting up out of the chair, whatever it may be, just start moving. Just let that be your starting point on your journey. And Kim, I want to talk to you about your journey because you give credit to your faith for making the journey towards better health more sustainable. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
I can. I've always believed. I didn't have any grand moment where I found Jesus, because he's always been a part of my life. But for a long time in my life, along with not exercising, not doing all the things, I pushed my faith off to the side. I always knew Jesus was there. I always knew that I could count on him. But I'm pretty sure he knew he couldn't count on me, because I wasn't reliable. And I had a long period where I was running the gym, and I was so busy that, sure, I'd say my prayers, I'd have a great moment. I say thank you. I'd have a bad moment. I'd say, please help. But it wasn't until I retired and I became my client. I gained some weight. I wasn't feeling very good about myself. And I started journaling, trying to get back into some old habits. And I turned the page in my journal one day, and it was Song of Solomon. And I wrote it down so I could get it word for word. But at the top of my journal, it said, "You are altogether beautiful, my love. There is no flaw in you." And it just hit. My husband thinks I'm beautiful. My children think I'm beautiful, no matter what my size. But my Creator loves me no matter what. And it wasn't until that moment where I realized that there is no shame in being overweight. It's a state of my physical condition today. And if I want to change it, that's fine. But I'm still worthy. I'm still beautiful. And it was just that
Yeah.
switch that
Mhm.
flipped
Mhm.
that somehow made it all worthwhile again. I didn't have
Yeah.
anything to prove to anyone.
Mm.
And
Okay.
and like I said, my faith has always been important to me, and I always knew that I could count on God. But our relationship did not become reciprocal until that time. And
Mm.
through that, me saying thank you, me saying please help me taking and surrendering my problems, somehow this all became sustainable. I find time for
Wow.
myself. I find time. It doesn't mean I don't eat cake. It doesn't mean I
Mhm.
don't skip the gym,
Mhm.
but I don't skip God anymore. And
Wow.
and
Mhm.
my life is better because of that.
Mhm.
Um, and I suppose, to be quite honest and very frank, I have nothing to prove to anyone except him. And
Yeah.
so it's a pretty cool place to be.
Yeah. When you reference retirement, Kim, that I tell people now, I got nothing else to prove. Been there, done
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
And it takes so much pressure off, doesn't it?
Yeah. It
Yeah.
does. It
Yeah.
does. Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
So, in your experience as a wellness coach and a middle aged woman, what daily habits have become non negotiable as you continue on your journey toward better health?
Every day is the same for me now, and it has been for
Mm-hmm.
about 4 years. I wake up, I drink a glass of water, and I make a cup of coffee. I sit down and I write. Um, I just empty my mind completely. Sometimes it's 3 or 4 pages, but I write first thing in the morning. And then I pray. I read my Bible and I pray. And I've discovered that emptying all the things that go on, whether it's my dreams or my worries or something I was talking to my husband about last night, if I can get it all out of my brain, my time with God is much better. So I drink water, I write, I pray, and then I go for a walk. And sometimes my praying continues, and sometimes I work through the problems that I discovered that I might have. Um, there are other little things that I
Hmm.
do throughout the day, but those are my non-negotiables.
Hmm.
The bonus, if you will, would be I track my vegetables. I try to eat at least 30 a week, and I try to drink at least 80 ounces of water a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Hmm. Kim, in your book, in the final chapter, appropriately titled Let Go, you share stories of learning and adventure. So, Kim, what do you think women need to let go of? And how will this help them ease into what you refer to as their second act?
Well, in the book, I talk about letting go of a lot of things. As women, men too, but I've worked with men and women, but as women, we hold so much and we hold
Mhm.
it close.
Yeah.
Um, we need to let go of fear. And that's sometimes easier said than done. But you have to let go of your fear of stepping out there. You never know what you're capable of until you just go.
Mhm.
Look at you ladies with this podcast, right? Me, I wrote a book.
Yeah.
It's an unexpected thing. I'm not a writer by education. I don't know if you're speakers by your
No.
vocation, but you took a step and now you're doing something amazing. I think we need to let go of status quo. Just because other people are doing it doesn't mean it's right for you. You have to live your life and you have to live your calling. I mean, and it's so hard to talk to young women beginning their families about listening for their call because
Hmm.
there's so much noise.
Right.
But I have the benefit of being my age, and my kids are grown, and my husband is gracious enough to let me follow my dreams. So I don't want to live the life that my neighbor lady lives, you
Hmm.
know?
Hmm.
I've got, it's I let go of numbing. I think it's important. So many of us, when we reach this age, it's easy. I know a lot of people who turn to a glass of wine every night or whatever
Mhm.
it may be, just to let go. I think we need to let go of perfection
Mhm.
because you can try with all your might to make everything just so, but there's going to be a blip along the way.
Oh, yeah.
And when you reach a point where you realize that the relationships that you have and the experiences that you have and the memories you make are the only things that really matter,
Mhm.
life is really pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so true.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What advice would you give women who is trying to make healthy changes but struggles with getting the family on board?
You have to be creative.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you have to be upfront. I watch so many men and women who had a goal, and maybe it's that they had a medical scare, or maybe they just finally got frustrated, like I did, the fact that their clothes didn't fit anymore. But if you go at it alone, you're going to cause waves in your family. You know, your family doesn't want to eat chicken and broccoli and brown rice
Mhm.
every meal, every day. You know, they still want to have fun. Maybe some of them should eat chicken,
Mhm.
broccoli, and brown rice, but I just think you have to be upfront and honest with them, and you have to tell them, this is what I'd like to do. This is why I'd like to do it. If you want to come on board, that's fine. I always cooked when my boys were still at home. I cooked the same protein for all of us.
Mhm.
We just ate different sides.
Mhm.
Like if I did, if I grilled a bunch of chicken, they might have potatoes or macaroni and cheese. I mean,
Mhm.
my boys loved macaroni and cheese.
Mhm.
But then I might have a salad. And so, but we tried to stay in tune, and they knew what I needed. So if I was working late and they were going to cook dinner, it was the
Mhm.
same thing. They would cook a protein that suited all of our needs.
Mhm.
Maybe they had tater tots. That's fine.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I think if you don't include them, you're going to struggle. And I also think you have to include them in the exercise. When I owned the gym, we tried to do things that involved my members' families all the time.
Mhm.
We do
Mhm.
5Ks, and they could bring their kiddos around. If their kids
Right.
want to ride a bike, that's fine. But all we're doing is teaching them to move their bodies and be healthy and to have fun with people instead of
Yeah.
sitting in front of a screen, or whether it's a computer or a TV or an iPad or whatever it is. But if you make it fun, if it's not, well, you got to go outside,
Yeah.
but let's us go outside.
Right. Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and we used to include the kids in the kitchen. My
Mhm.
boys are great cooks. Their wives are good cooks too, but my boys enjoy cooking for their family, and they're adventurous and they're creative. But we used to do this thing called boys' night when they were
Mhm.
still at home. They would pick the recipes, they would write the grocery list. I'd shop while they were at school and then come home and clean, or they would cook, which meant that mama got to clean up
Mm.
the kitchen. That was always
Mhm.
their job when I
Yeah.
cooked. And we just reverse, but it was so fun and it taught them skills. It brought them on board.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah.
And
I like
Kim,
that.
what I hear you saying though is that be creative and also not just to talk it, but to walk it and to role model. And that is so good. It's good for kids and it's good for the whole family. Those are all of the questions. We've sort of come to the end of our questions. Kim, do you have any parting words for us or information you want to share with our audience today?
I think that the thing I'd like to share, my parting words, if you will, are we're lucky to be able to live this life. And if we're lucky to be able to get old,
Mhm.
I hope to get old. I'm not
Mhm.
there yet.
Mhm.
Um, if you're lucky enough to live life, you might as well enjoy it, right? So I think you have to approach everything from that positive viewpoint. Make it fun. If you want to lose some weight, it's okay to pay attention, but don't deprive yourself. Don't do something that you dread every single day. Change your diet a little bit, but still eat the foods that you like to eat. If you decide you want to exercise, still do things that make your body happy. Don't do something that hurts. Don't do something you dread. If you hate your job, start looking at opportunities for something new.
Mhm.
I think we have to be responsible, but there's no sense in not having fun. And I tried to, throughout my book, there are 7 different chapters. One is on my faith, one is on my habits, one is on my diet and exercise and spending time with friends. But through each of those things, I tried to give examples of ways to add it in little bites.
Mhm.
If you've got 5 minutes, give this a whirl. If you've got 10, if you've got a half an hour, whatever it is, but I gave you little ways to crowd out. And when I say crowd out, I mean add in, right? Add in the good in little bits and pieces until it's who you feel like you want to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great information. Thank you so much for sharing and coming on Earrings Off. It's been a delight to talk with you today, Kim. We wish you all the very best.
Thank you. And if anybody wants to find me, I'm on Instagram and Facebook and my website. They're all my name is Kim Mosiman. And my book is Reflections of Joy. And I would be delighted if someone reads it, if they let me know what they think.
Okay. All right. Thank you again. We wish you all the best. Take good
Thank you.
care.